Hello everyone. In this session, I'm going to discuss the different operators in shell scripts. So when you write a shell script, you need to use different types of operators. There are different categories of operators. So the very first category is the arithmetic operators, right? So let's begin with. So the very first category is arithmetic operators. And arithmetic operators you are already aware about, like plus, you can say minus, multiplication, division, or you can say mod. So these operations are the arithmetic operations. Arithmetic operations you are already familiar with. Apart from the arithmetic operations, we use some of the operator for comparison. So other operators we consider as comparison operator. Now when we do the comparison, here the operators like equal to, less than equal to, greater than equal to. So we write after putting hyphen sign, let's say EQ represent the equal to operator. If I say GT, that means greater than. If I say LT, that means less than. If I type less than equal to, then LE, so hyphen LE, and so on. Okay. And if I, let's say, want to type not equal to, so you can use NE, etc. So these are the comparison operators which you can use when you want to compare one number to another number, right? Then another category of operations which we consider as the logical operators. So you can use logical operators. Now what are the logical operators? We use logical and we also use logical or. So generally we use these two. We can also use logical not. So there is negation operator also, right? Then there are certain more operations which we can perform in case of files. So the next category of operators are file operators. File operators we use to perform different operations on files. So the very first file operator you consider like when we try to check the existence of a file. So we use hyphen E. We use hyphen E to check whether a file is existing or not, right? So if a file is existing, it will return you accordingly. When we write the code, you will get to know that. Then if we want to check whether a file is a regular file or not, we can use hyphen F operator. So we write hyphen F and then the file name. If the given file name is a regular file, then it will return you positive value, otherwise negative, right? Then you can also check whether a file is directory. So for checking the directory, there is an operation or operator called hyphen D operator. So after hyphen D, if you type, let's say dir1 or abc.txt, so if it is directory dir1, it will return a positive or true value. And if it is a file, then it will return negative value or false, right? So these are few of the operators which works on the files, right? Apart from these operations, we can use some of the operator related to strings. So the next category, as you can say, string operators. The string related operators, when we want to compare the string, so if we want to compare one string with another, we can use equal to sign. So let's say S1, I want to compare with S2, I will use S1 equal to S2, right? If I want to compare whether a string is null or not, or it is having zero length or empty string, then we put hyphen Z operator before the string name, right? If I want to check whether a string is not equal to another, so I can use not equal to operator, right? And so on. So these are some operator related to strings when we want to compare or perform some operations. We want to check whether a string is empty or not. Okay. So please do remember all these operators, and let's see few of the sample examples. So let me clear this and then begin with the example. So let's begin with arithmetic operations. Let's say you are having a variable I is equal to, I'm saying let's say 30, and j is equal to, let's say you are having 5. Okay. Now if you want to add them, there are multiple ways you can do that. The easiest way that you can do it, like if you want to print echo, and you can use inside dollar double bracket sign, and let's say if I write $I divided by or multiplied by, right? So let's say I you want to multiply with j in double bracket sign, you need not to put dollar, right? This is the advanced script form. If you use expr command, then you need to put dollar there. Okay. So if you want to add I and j, you can write something like this, right? So in dollar double bracket sign, you can use the variable as it is, as you use C or Java or C++, right? If you want to subtract j from I, you can use this. And if you want to multiply, you can put asterisk. And if you want to divide, you can use division sign. And if you want to calculate the mod or remainder, you can use this, right? So all these operations you can perform. But instead of using dollar double bracket sign, you can use, let's say, expr command also. So in expr, let's say if you want to divide $I plus $j, if you want to do, then it will give you the addition. Expr is the command which we use to solve the expression. Okay. Similarly, if you want to do minus, you can do it. If you want to do division, then you can do it. Mod, you can perform. But there's an issue when you want to multiply, it will say some error because asterisk is a meta character. So you need to put this backward slash before the asterisk and then it will work, right? So you can do the arithmetic operations in expr also. There's another command we can use like basic calculation command bc. So bc can also be used, like if I do echo and inside the echo I write, let's say, $I plus $j, and I pass this thing with pipe to bc command. Let's say my bc command is a basic calculator command. It will add whatever the expression you are passing to bc. This symbol is pipe symbol, as I have discussed in one of my previous session. So you can check that this output is going as input to this bc command, it is adding it. So if you want to subtract, you can use the same thing, minus logic here, it will subtract. And if you want to divide, it can divide also. And if you want to multiply, it can multiply. And if you want to perform, let's say, mod, it will perform mod. Okay, so in this way you are aware about the dollar and double brackets environment. You are also aware about expr command, and now you are also aware about the bc command. Okay, you can use these things to perform the arithmetic operations. So now look at the comparison operator. If I want to compare my I and j, I can use a test command. Okay, so if I pass test command and I want to compare $I, let's say eq is equal to $j, I hit enter, And if I check the return value of this command which previously has been executed, the return value, you remember there is a one variable dollar question mark. Okay. So dollar question mark always stores the return value of the previously executed command. So if this dollar question mark is storing 0, that means previously executed command was successfully executed. The positive 0 here you consider in the positive sense, and any other value apart from 0 is negative sense. In C programming, we consider 1 as true, 0 as false. Here you consider opposite, right? So if I am printing, and because $I was not equal to $j, so it possibly will return 1 rather than 0, right? So that means previously executed test was not true. Okay. Now, if I pass greater than, so if I want to check $I was the greater than $j, and if I print the return value of the previous command with dollar question mark, it will now this time give me 0 because I was having greater value than j, right? So that means this condition is true and the return value is 0. Please do remember this, right? Now if I want to check for less than, so I will use LT, and because $I was having greater value than $j, so this statement or this condition will be false, and if you print the return value with dollar question mark, it will return you 1, right? Okay, so I hope you are aware about how to use the comparative or comparison in the shell script. Now these things we will use in if else condition in the next session, and we will also use such kind of thing when we apply like while loop or other loops, right? So let's look at the next. Now let's look at the logical operators, that is AND and OR. So let's say we are having another variable k, and k is having, let's say, value, any value, let's say 2. Okay, so now we are having three variables I, j, k, and let's print the value. So I, j, and k, these three are having 35 and 2 value. So if I want to compare based on the some logical operator AND and OR, how we can do that? Similar to test command, there is one environment which we write this square bracket environment. So inside square bracket, if I write $I, let's say I'm using greater than GT, then $j, and I also want to compare some other thing, let's say AND, I put again this square bracket environment like test. Okay, so if I put it and I write $j is greater than $k, and that is true also because I is having value 30, j is having 5, and k is having 2. So this overall condition must be true. When we execute this, and if you print the return value by typing dollar question mark, it will return you 0. That means this condition was true. But if you change something, let's say if you check here, I'm saying EQ, then what will happen? If you check the return value, it is saying 1 because this condition was true because I was greater than j, but j was not equal to k. So the overall condition because of this logical AND operator is false, right? Similarly, if I go for this, let's say I'm saying this is greater than, and here I start saying, let's say EQ or less than LT. So because the very first condition is false, overall statement will give you false, and the return value will be 1 in that case. So you check, it is 1. Remember, 1 is false and 0 is true. Okay. Similarly, you can go for OR operator. So if I put instead of AND, if I put logical OR, remember in this the very first condition is false but the second condition is true. So if you are using OR, then logically this statement must return you true value. See, it is returning 0, so that means this OR is working fine. It is returning you true value, this particular value is true, right? I hope you are getting it. So this is the role of logical AND and logical OR. Now let's discuss the file related operators. So let's say I check here I'm having some file, let's say sample.txt. It is a regular file, okay? And desktop is a directory, okay? So do remember, I'm applying, let's say test, or instead of test, you can use that bracket environment, square bracket. Inside it, I'm using the existing. I want to check existence of a file, let's say sample.txt. If this file is existing, this -e operator will return the true value. So if I print the return value by typing $? It will return me 0. That means it is saying that this file.txt is existing. Now if I put any file which is not existing, let's say sample xyz, this file doesn't exist in the present working directory, right? So if I check it, and if I print the return value of the previous command, then it is returning 1. That means this overall test was failed, and the meaning is this file doesn't exist. So -e operator you can use to check the existence of a file. Now if you want to check the existence of like you want to check whether a file is regular or not, so instead of E you can use F option. F checks the regular file. So if sample.txt is a regular file, this test will return you 0. If you pass something else, let's say sample.txt, instead of sample.txt, let's say if I pass desktop. Desktop is not a regular file, it is a directory. Okay. So if you check the return value, it will return you 1. That means the test was failed. Right. Now if you want to check the specifically desktop is a directory or not, you pass -d operator. So if desktop is a directory, it will return you, return value will be 0 because desktop is a directory. If music is a directory, then it will return you, let me clear this. If music is a directory, instead of desktop, if I write music, now let me check, the return value of this is 0. But if I pass in D, let's say I am passing sample.txt, and I know that sample.txt is not a directory, it is a normal regular file. In that case, the return value will be 1. Right? So I hope with this you can remember these operations on files. Okay, so you can check the existence, you can check the regular file, you can check the directory. There are other operations also if you want to check read, write, permission and other. I'm not going in detail. You can read it by referring any of the book, or if you request, I will prepare more sessions on that. So now let's continue and look at the operations on your strings, right? Okay, so let's say let's say you are defining a string named as A, and you're writing here, let's say hello. Okay, and you are defining another string, let's say B, and you are writing hi here. Let's say I'm also defining third string variable, here also I'm writing hi. Okay, now I'm applying this test, so this square bracket environment. Now I'm checking whether A string is equal to B or not. So if I'm checking this, because A and B are not equal, the return value if you print here by printing $? It will return you 1 because the test was failed. But if I print here the equal value, like if I write C string is equal to B or not, because C and B both are having high, so the return value of this test will be 0. The test was successful, right? If I want to compare not equal to, so if I compare A and B and I put whether A is not equal to B, now the return value, this test will be successful, that will be 0 because A is not equal to B. Now if I want whether a string is empty or not, empty means it doesn't store anything. So if I take another string D as I don't store anything, D is equal to nothing, that means it is a empty string, right? So if I apply the test, so if I use hyphen Z here, hyphen Z will give you the empty string idea, whether the string is empty or not. Now after that you need to pass the variable. Let's say I'm typing $A. A is a string which is not empty, right? So if A is not empty, this Z operator will give you return value as 1. That means the test was failed. The test was failed. But if I pass here, let's say D is my empty string. And now if I check the return value, the test is saying 0. Okay. So these are the operators. When you write a shell script, you need to use these operators. Okay. So I'm closing this. With the help of this particular session, you can understand all type of operators. See you in the next session. Thank you for connecting.